had a fascinating discussion with one of our members who's very active on the York District School Board and in other major initiatives to combat anti-Semitism in the public school system and in general. She's amazing, very active, very outspoken, very determined to make a Kiddush Hashem, to sanctify God's name. And her efforts are astounding and inspirational. And she was asking me in frustration, with some validity, she doesn't see perhaps some of the rabbinic leadership or other leadership speaking out about just the rampant anti-Semitism. There's organizations doing great things, but the synagogue rabbis of all denominations, especially with the ICC arrest for Netanyahu, which is the most bizarre thing in the world, things that are so blatantly anti-Semitic, that they're so bizarre and so, cannot be condoned from any rational, sentient being. Why isn't there protests or speeches or articles being written? So I said, look, I think there is a massive effort. Everyone's is stretched thin, yada yada, a lot of excuses. At the end of the day, she is correct. When there is, and we just learned in last week's Torah portion, the Almighty says, I will be sanctified amongst the Jewish people. His name has to be sanctified, which means the Jewish people have to be elevated on a pedestal. And when the Jewish people, and by extension our homeland, the state of Israel, is dragged through the mud, that is the inverse. That is a Chilul Hashem, a desecration of His name, which we must and are obligated to fight and denounce and do whatever we can. But I was thinking, I didn't share this with her, but I was thinking about something that I learned last week, which I shared with some people. And that is the following incredible idea from the great sage Rabbi Moshe Shapiro, who just passed away a few years ago. And listen to what he says. It's really mind-blowing. The covenant, the land of Israel was bequeathed to Abraham and then to the Jewish people based on two covenants, really, the rabbis tell us. One was the covenant of circumcision, known as Brit Milah. Brit is a covenant. That denotes sacrifice of the body, self-sacrifice towards the Almighty, towards your Judaism. And the other, that one people know about, but the other bris that was made, the other covenant was the Brit HaOmer, the covenant of the Omer offering. In temple times, the Jewish people had to bring a small, very small, dry volume of barley, the lowest possible type of grain, animal feed essentially, to the temple on the second day of Passover. And that feed that they brought, the tiny amount that they brought, allowed them to then harvest and eat the new grain that had grown previous to that in the land of Israel. They weren't allowed to eat before that the new grain. And that Omer, it's called Omer, Ayin Mem Resh, English O-M-E-R, and we were counting Sfirat HaOmer, the counting of the days towards the holiday of Shavuot, commemorating the giving of the Torah, is reminiscent of that Omer offering. And Rabbi Shapiro essentially says, and I'm paraphrasing, but the idea is so profound, that what does the Almighty want from us? The first day of Passover is the Seder night, is glory and miracles and the Exodus and the 10 plagues and things that don't make sense, that we can't comprehend and possibly would never saw after that. But the second night of Passover is what endures and what stays with us. The Omer, the small, humble barley that we offer at the temple the second day of Passover. And then we count from that point on till Shavuot, the giving of our Torah, our very lifeblood, which leads to a sacrifice that was brought on Shavuot of 2 loaves of bread. We started off with animal feed and we rise to the level of bread of humans when we get the Torah. But it starts with the animal feed, with the lowly, humble Omer offering. And Rabbi Shapiro points out, we are at our best when we realize our station. We're not meant to be huge and out there and changing the world actively and trying to convince and missionize everyone. We do that naturally when we remember who we really are in our identity. We're Omer people. We're Omer people. The Jews are Omer people that are humble, that are kind, that are not flashy, and not huge and expansive. And that is what will save us and get us to Shavuot, to salvation, to the Torah, to the giving of our values. And if we forget that, we are in grave danger, because the land of Israel was contingent on those 2 covenants, of the circumcision and on the Omer. That was promised to Abraham. There will always be multitudes that will overpower us. There will be economies that will try to crush us. And look what's happening today. It's all coming true. BDS, it's all economies trying to just trample on Israel, and they haven't succeeded miraculously. There will always be more enemies. You think we're going to destroy Hamas? It's an ideology. It's like a whack-a-mole. They'll just keep coming out and out and out of every hole in the ground. their multitude. Now, it doesn't mean we're exempt from trying. We must try. We must make the effort. But at the core, we just do have to remember, along with the efforts that are made in combating anti-Semitism, and combating the craziness on campus, and these are all obligations that we have. At the same time, we must remember that we will be successful to the extent that we keep our identity as the Omer. Humble, small, kind, helping our friends. That, not expansive, not flashy, not blowhards, not arrogant. And with that mindset and with our efforts that we are making, and with, like such as this member that I mentioned before, we will be successful, as we say now in the land of Israel. B'yachad ninatzeach, together we will be victorious. Shabbat Shalom.